Winter in the US this year is going to be very different. El Nino is ramping up in the Pacific. Sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic Ocean are still off the charts, and we're going to have an amplified southern jet stream. Not only will this affect how much snow we get and how often we see it, but it's also going to change when the snow starts. So when are you going to see your first snow this winter? Well, a good place to start is by looking at what typically happens every winter. I've put together this map that shows on average when your location usually sees its first measurable snowfall. So go ahead and pick out your state and where you live, and let's start with who sees snow last. Well, actually, this zone doesn't usually see snow at all. But this next one, the green one, well, this area doesn't see a whole lot of snow either, but they do sometimes see it. However, since it's kind of hit or miss or sporadic, I don't have a solid date for you either. Let's just say January or February. Moving on to this light blue region, this is where we have a lot of data supporting an average first snowfall of around December 30th. This includes Raleigh, North Carolina, Nashville, Tennessee, Little Rock, and Dallas. Essentially, sometime in January is when you're going to see your first snow down here. But beyond this, we can get a little bit more detailed with our first snowfall date because we have a lot to work with as far as historical averages go. In the darker blue here, we typically see our first snow either after December 15th or before December 30th. So that narrows it down a lot. This includes places like Bowling Green, Kentucky, and St. Louis. This light purple zone indicates an area where we expect to see snowfall sometime between December 1st and December 15th. And now we're talking about places like Washington, D.C. and Cincinnati and Peoria, Illinois. Now, once we get into this darker shade of purple, we're talking about a large area of the U.S. seeing their first measurable snowfall between November 16th and December 1st. This is Chicago, Pittsburgh, and a lot of southern New England. It's very important to remember that these are just historical averages. This is not exactly how it's going to be every year, especially in this pink zone where on average we see our first snow between November 1st and November 16th. There tends to be some major swings up here. And then of course the final gray zone here shows us where snow can occur as early as October 2nd, which is actually around the time that this video goes up. But there you have it. On average, this is when places in the US typically get their first snow. But I want you to think back to what I said at the beginning of this video. This is not a typical year. The 2023-2024 winter season is going to be very different, so we can't go solely off of averages here. And one of the biggest differences we're going to see during this 2023-2024 winter is an El Nino pattern. You see, for the past 3 winters, we've been in a La Nina, which basically just means that the waters down in the equatorial Pacific region were cooler than usual, and that leads to less thunderstorms down there, and therefore it changes the weather patterns worldwide. Up here in the US, that's usually going to keep areas in the south and east drier and warmer, and it keeps the north and northwest a little bit colder and wetter. But for the first time in a while, we're entering this upcoming winter in a full-blown El Nino. This is when those waters down in the Pacific are warmer than usual, and the thunderstorm activity starts going crazy. This actually amplifies the southern jet stream, sending several storm systems flying across the southern US. And a lot of times those storm systems are very strong, and they can latch on to some of the colder air up north and cause very big snowstorms. For example, some of you guys might remember the North American blizzard of 2003. That one occurred during a moderate to strong El Nino and was a partial result of that amplified southern storm track. This storm dropped 44 inches of snow in Maryland and caused $15 million in damage. And of course, if you think back to our last really strong El Nino, we were in 2016. And guess what happened in 2016? Yeah, a really historic blizzard. The January blizzard of 2016 dumped 3 feet of snow across a huge chunk of the mid-Atlantic region and caused $500 million in damage. Now, we can't say that either of those storms were directly caused by El Nino, but it's something to keep in mind as we develop our forecast. And El Nino years are notorious for keeping things mild, especially in the east. The story changes a little bit in the west, and that's another thing to consider as we continue to develop our forecast. Now, with that being said, I can't say with 100% certainty that there will be early October snowfall somewhere in the west, like in California or something. But do you know what I can say will definitely happen with 100% certainty in October? An annular solar eclipse. That's right, on Saturday, October 14th, 2023, the moon is going to pass between the sun and the earth at its maximum distance from Earth in its orbit. This is going to cast a shadow on the earth through its path across the western US. Now, what does this have to do with snow in the US? Nothing. I really just want to encourage you to get out there and look at this thing because it's coming up fast and a lot of people don't know about it. A few years ago, I got the chance of experiencing a total solar eclipse in Tennessee, and it was one of the coolest moments of my life. In order to fully experience a solar eclipse, you're going to want to look at the sun, which is usually never a good idea, unless you have a pair of these bad boys, which just happen to be today's sponsor. Visi Solar Eclipse glasses are made in the USA, they're NASA approved, and they are CE and ISO compliant. Basically, they're going to protect your eyes when you're looking at the sun, which is important if you are going to look at the sun. When I went to the solar eclipse in 2017, I was not smart enough to buy my own pair, and I ended up having to pay some doofus in the parking lot $20 per pair because there was a shortage. I think there's a good chance that that's about to happen again this year. If not for the one coming up in October, then definitely for the even bigger and highly anticipated April 8th, 2024 total solar eclipse that will go through the central and parts of the eastern US. This is going to be the Super Bowl of solar eclipses, and we're not going to get another viewing opportunity like this over here until 2045. So my advice right now would be to click the link in the description and get yourself a pair of these, maybe even get a couple other pairs for your family members, or you can get a whole daggone box of them and you can be the doofus in the parking lot selling them for $20 a pair. They even have these really cool photo filters that go over your phone camera so you can take good pictures of the eclipse while it's happening. Go ahead and click the link in the description and use my code Ryan Hall for 15% off your order. And now let's keep talking about snow. Given everything we've learned about in this video, from historical examples of El Nino snowstorms, our amplified southern jet stream, warm sea surface temperatures, etc., we can put all this together and come up with a pretty good forecast for when you're going to see snow this year. So here's another fancy map showing you where I think we're going to see snow later than average this year. A large portion of the north central US is included here, mainly because on average El Nino winters are much warmer in these regions, meaning it may take longer for a storm system to come through and drop measurable snow. We also have to think about the sea surface temperatures being warm and the fact that the near future is expected to be pretty warm up here in the north central US. Put all this together and I don't see any sort of early snow happening through a lot of these regions. So Boston, Chicago, St. Louis, I think the dates that we saw on our earlier graphic are going to be pushed back a little bit. Now, this blue zone over here to the west indicates where I think that we could see snow much sooner than usual. And to be honest, this is kind of cheating because a lot of these places have already seen snow. But even into California and extreme northern Arizona and New Mexico, I think you guys are going to see some early snow, especially in the higher elevations. So take another look at this map, find your location, and note the date. Now, compare it to this map. Are you in the brown? Add a week or two. Are you in the blue? Subtract a week or two. It's simple. And now you know when you are going to see snow this year. I know it's not an exact science, but if you're still watching this video to this point, you're a weather weenie, okay? I'm sorry to tell you this for the first time, but you just love this stuff and we're having fun here. I'm going to be doing a lot of winter outlooks over the next few weeks, and each one is going to get more concise and useful with the data that we can provide. But of course, it is tradition on this channel that during my first snowfall forecast, I make one bold call to finally prove that I am the most accurate weather forecaster that has ever existed on this planet. I want everyone that lives in Nashville, Tennessee to pay very close attention. I am predicting that the first measurable snowfall in Nashville will occur on January 3rd, 2024. To be even more precise, I think the first snowflake is going to fall at Centennium Park at 10:33 p.m. on that day. If you live in Nashville, Tennessee, I want you to write that down. I want you to like this video, put it in your favorites, save it somewhere, set a reminder, and come back to me in 2024 and tell me how good of a job I did, or how bad. Leave a dislike on the video if I screwed it up. I don't care. Regardless, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you never miss an update as we head into what I think is going to be a very active winter season, okay? That's all I have for you. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.